I'd like to call the St. John Sanitary District meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Jim Zarnik.
Present.
John Kennedy is absent. Kim Grohl.
Here.
John Schaefer.
Present.
Patricia Sims-Semerchik is absent. Joe Wisawati.
Present.
And Wayne Pondinas.
Present.
All votes have to be unanimous as it's 3 members of a 5-member board.
Okay, thank you. Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Did everybody have a chance to review the minutes for the last meeting?
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion for approval. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? We don't have to call. Okay. Motion is passed. All right, I'm sorry for the delay with all the presentations for our financial advisors. Senator Dalton.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good
Thank you
evening.
for having me tonight. So I believe the board reviewed our proposal 2 weeks ago, and I think deferred it to this current meeting tonight. So I'm just going to run through. We revised our proposal, and Joe, were those? Does everyone have copies of our revised proposal? Okay, great. So I'll just jump right into it. My name is Daniel Dalton. I am with Senator Dalton Municipal Advisors. We are based out of Maryville. And so you should all have a copy that redefines our scope of services and our rates. And so the major difference with this revised proposal is the not to exceed limit, which is $10,000, and you can find that on page 1 of the proposal. We believe that a not to exceed limit provides overall transparency to the taxpayers of the town and allows the board officials to better dictate specific tasks and projects that need to be completed. So by specific tasks, what I refer to is on page 5 of this proposal, you'll see under the subsection annual consulting services that we've listed some very, very detailed specific topics, tasks, projects that you may want to assign to us if you hire us. And so in terms of what was just talked about a few minutes ago during the joint session, we do work on sewer rate studies. We can provide cost of service studies. We can provide we can review the capital system development or connection charges and make recommendations or modifications. We can assist with the district's 2024 budget, and we can assist with calculation of pilot payments. There's a plethora of things that we can offer to you, but we did throw in the not to exceed limit just to be more transparent with everybody. And so our experience with Northwest Indiana Utilities, combined with the close location, gives us the ability to provide efficient and productive financial advice. And so because we are so close to the town of St. John, we don't charge for travel fees. We can be present anytime you ask us to do anything. If you want to call me, I'm available all the time. If you want to schedule a meeting, I can be here in a matter of minutes. And so with that, I would like you to please review our proposal and discuss among yourselves. And I'm open to any questions too. Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, just on, in your Exhibit A, the annual consulting services.
Yes.
So are you saying in your proposal for $10,000 you will do items 1 through 8, or is it you will?
These are items that we can do for you, and we are going to make sure that we do not exceed $10,000 in consulting.
So then your consulting fees, would you be like a bond counsel or?
Potentially, and actually the paragraph just below that, municipal advisory services, we are registered with the SEC and the MSRB to provide bond municipal advisory services. We would not be bond counsel. if that was your question.
So if we elected to go out for bond, you would at that point just advise on
We would
how the
assist with,
procedure is going to,
yes, precisely.
everything would be charged on an hourly rate, correct? On whoever's working on the project?
We would have to, we would actually, and if we discuss a financing, we would actually do a separate engagement letter with the district that would break out cost of issuance between all the different parties involved when it comes to bond issuance.
So point blank question, what am I actually getting for the $10,000?
You would get my undivided attention and the ability for our firm to help you assist with rate studies, cost of services, cost of service studies, and any additional reports. We typically prepare a financial management report annually for our utility clients, which is a good breakdown of past compared to present expenditures, receipts, cash balances, budget versus actual type of
But,
comparisons.
Would that be considered like an audit of the district?
No, it would just be more of a advisory to you to show you exactly what's happened in the past, what's happening today, how do we look in the future. So more of just advisory services, if that helps.
So if we were to engage you to do a rate study, you would do that at your hourly rates?
Yes, sir. Mhm.
And then if you're still short of that and we engage you to do item 3 and then item 5, eventually you might come up to that cap and then we would have to.
And if I can direct you to a specific paragraph regarding this, if that's okay. So on page 1, you'll see the not to exceed limit. Right after that, it says we shall not exceed $10,000 without written consent of the district. So if we do start to get close to that cap, then we can have that discussion.
Okay.
And you could have a motion to amend the agreement at that point, I would imagine. Do a simple motion to amend the agreement and then have that executed in writing between the parties.
Mhm.
I would imagine that's how we could manage that.
Okay.
But I know that Mr. Kennedy was the one that requested the not to exceed amount be included in there.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Baker Tilly.
Thank you. I know it's been a long night, so we'll try to be brief. Amber Nielsen is a manager in our firm, handing out a presentation shortly. My name's Eric Walsh. I'm a partner and actually lead our municipal advisory practice for Baker Tilly. I believe you saw at your last meeting a copy of our proposal as well. We were not asked for any amendments to that. We do have a combined rate of $210 per hour is provided in that proposal. More than happy, similar to what Mr. Cinder talked through, to put any type of not to exceed. It would be standard practice, as he explained, that you can put any not to exceed you want. Once you get to that not exceed, you come back and ask for additional approval. So really, it's a not to exceed until you just get to that level. I will walk through the entire presentation tonight, but I know obviously there's a focus on fees. To answer the gentleman's question about bond counsel, just to give you guys an idea, typically a bond issue is going to run you $80,000 to $90,000 between legal and financial advisory. So when you're talking not to exceed $10,000, you're nowhere near that when you're talking about issuing bonds, et cetera. That really would just be for some ancillary kind of rate analysis, a little bit of financial management work. I'd like to give you guys a little bit of a background on Baker Tilly. Since I know there's several new members, if you'll start on page 3 of the presentation that was handed out, just giving you our history with the town of St. John. We have for the last 6 years been the municipal and financial advisor to the clerk treasurer's office, listed through the annual work that we do for Beth and her office, and that she then provides to the town council. We've also worked for, up until this year, the water district and the sanitary district since 2020. Typical services we provide are things like annual financial health checks. That's what Mr. Cinder referred to as a financial management report, very common in the state of Indiana. We've done capital planning and affordability. I know it's been talked about tonight, multi-year capital plans, et cetera. We've done several of those in tandem with prior engineers and the water and wastewater superintendents historically. I'd suggest if you've not been given copies of those reports, you ask for them because there is a good basis to start from. We also did the same thing for the town several years ago. I know Wayne was involved in that, where the town actually had a town-wide capital and financial plan going out for the next 5 years. I'd also add the most recent thing that we've done in the last 2 years is review your contract with Sherrillville, as well as the new rates that they started charging. That was under a previous town manager, and there was some transition in that period. We did suggest several changes that we would reply to Sherrillville when you guys were negotiating that rate. Those were not provided to our understanding to them to try to negotiate a lower rate. And finally, you just had a bond rating surveillance on your sewer bonds. We worked through that with your current town manager, and your bond rating was affirmed through that as well. On the next page, page 4, just so you know who our team has been historically and would be if you so choose to move forward with us as your municipal advisor. I am the lead on everything in St. John that we've done the last several years. As I mentioned earlier, I'm also our practice leader for our entire municipal advisory firm. What that means is we're across 7 states in the Midwest, and it's about 130 people. And they all come to me, and I'm where the buck stops when it comes to our financial advisory group. Andy Mauser, not here tonight. He's based out of our Indianapolis office. He focuses primarily on financial economic development practice and working with developers and requests they may have both in utility and from tax incentive standpoint. And then Amber has worked with Beth in her office for the last several years and is really our point person as the manager, managing the day-to-day work and requests that may come in from either the utilities or the clerk treasurer's office. Amber and I are both located in Mishawaka, Indiana, so a little bit over an hour away. Then at the bottom, you also have 2 dedicated staff people, both out of the Mishawaka office as well, that have worked historically with the town and on the utilities. And I'll go through these last couple of pages briefly, but just what, and not mentioning even to Cinder, but versus any competitor when we go up against them, the thing we like to highlight is what separates Baker Tilly from other municipal advisors, because you guys can go get this work done really from anybody that you so choose. It's really what we bring from the size of our firm and the power of having a large firm behind us. On page 5, you can see within my practice alone, these 6 people that really lead specific areas and are subject matter experts. Why I think that's important, just listening to your earlier conversations, there's going to be things like the Inflation Reduction Act. If you're doing millions and millions of dollars of projects, there's 50 to 70% tax credits available out there for potential utility and infrastructure projects. We have an entire tax team that's reviewed the entire 700 pages of that act, and also tax accountants that can actually file the rebate requirements to get those tax refunds from the federal government. Municipalities have never been able to get that before because you're tax exempt, right? You don't pay taxes. How would you get a tax status refund from the federal government? First year, that's going to be available as this year. We've been doing those on the private sector for the past 10 years, so we know exactly how this process will work with the federal government and the IRS. Other people on this page I want to point out, top right, Todd Caldwell. He is the former State Board of Accounts director, so who all of your audits go to, because I heard an audit question asked earlier. He was the director of that program up until last year, retired early from the state, now works for us as an advisor for our clients. You talked about, somebody asked earlier in the water board about Lake City Bank, what were those investments for? We have an entire investment arm led by a former banker, Jeff Messer, on the bottom or middle right. We invest approximately $10 million for the town in utilities. Lake City Bank is your trustee bank that those process through, but then we work with the clerk treasurer's office to basically buy CDs and long-term, short-term investments throughout the state of Indiana that get you the best rate and return possible. The last one that I'll point to, bottom left, Paige Sansone. It was talked about earlier on budgets. She is a former Department of Local Government Finance director. That is who all of your budgets, both from the town as well as your tax-supported budget from the sanitary district. That's the legislative arm that those get it reviewed by at the state. She's a former director from that program, now works for us as well. The last piece that I want to hit on is I'm going to skip a few pages and go to page 7. I'm going to promise you I'll only hit 2 more pages and then be done. But you talked so much about projects tonight. I really do want to show the breadth of our company. On page 7, this is our public sector practice, which my group resides within. We work for approximately 4,200 governments coast to coast. So that's not only municipal advisory, what I'm talking about tonight, that's just public sector advisory and practice. We have ex-finance directors, ex-city managers on staff that really help from everything from strategic planning to issuing debt and adjusting rates. We have about 500 people in that entire organization that only works for municipal governments and 90 plus years of history in this industry. And then the final page that I'll hit for you is on page 9. Your engineering firm went through a lot of good projects that are probably going to cost a lot of money and going through those. And the power of our firm, we are the 4th largest municipal advisory firm in the country. We issued about 256 bond issues last year. That was open market only. The gentleman talked about the IFA earlier. Indiana Finance Authority, the program that you would borrow through the states, the SRF program. You saw a few slides ago, I didn't mention the gentleman's name, Dave Erdman. He actually ran Wisconsin's state counterpart to the IFA. Wisconsin's version of it now works for us as well. Jim McGough, who runs the IFA, who I'm sure you're familiar with, on the phone with him probably weekly going through projects. We take the most amount of state revolving fund issues every year to the state as a municipal advisor. And a couple of things I'll talk about that program, and this is not to second guess, or I just want to make sure, and this can be free advice depending on your decision tonight, you will have to get scored in that program. A 2% interest rate floor sounds great. A 2.6% interest rate at the top sounds very good. St. John, very high wealthy community. MHI is part of that scoring. You're not going to score well. Your utility rates are some of the lowest in the state. You're not going to score well on utility rates. More than likely, you won't score in the fundable range the first time that you go through it. What happens then is you don't get the 2 to 2.6% interest rate. The state of Indiana takes you through a pool financing. They use their AAA credit rating, go get dollars from the public access markets and lend it to you as a secondary lender. Still a great deal. We're closing on several of those right now. Current interest rate's 3.5% on a 21-year loan. That's the difference of getting the traditional funds versus the pooled funds. I just want you to go in eyes wide open in that. Why you probably won't get into that is because most of those traditional funds go to the very small, poorer communities that have, I'm working with a community right now that their rates are $100 a month on average, just for water or sewer, not both combined. So you likely are going to fall into that pool. It's going to be a higher interest rate environment for you. Exactly right. You can take that out. Actually, you can take it out to 35 years. If you're in the pool funding, regardless if it's plant or pipe, you can go to 35 years. I know I just threw a lot at you. I know there's a lot for you to think about. Happy to answer any questions.
How long have you been the advisor for St. John?
Going back to 2017 for the town. Yep. And for the utilities, 2020.
And you're still the financial advisor for the town?
For the clerk treasurer's office only.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so how does that work, or how did it work, since I'm kind of new to this board? You know, the sanitary district / town of St. John has a couple of bonds out there. Some of them date back quite a ways, have some higher interest rates on them. You know, the bond market back in, I think it was 16, 17 was, you know, you could get a bond for almost, depending on your town's credit rating, for under 1%. It was almost like free money.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you were on staff here, I take it then, when that, as far as refinancing those bonds at that lower rate, or was there anything that you knew in the, did you make those recommendations or not, or how did that work?
Yep. The only bond issue that we worked on for either utility was the 21 bond issue. The 2017 was actually done before we were fully hired by the utilities to do that bond issue. So the 2021s, we were the municipal advisor.
And the 17 was a refunding, wasn't it?
Was a refunding,
Yeah.
correct. We were not the municipal, I think Cinder or,
I believe it was
I
Sunday.
think Cinder was probably the
Yeah.
one on that one.
Before it became Center Dalton.
But yes, you do have several bonds outstanding. We did talk through potential for refunding those, but the one issue you had going through that low interest rate market is bond issues in the municipal market have call provisions. And
Yeah, some do, some don't, right, depending on the,
almost all are going to have those in the state of Indiana because our credit in the state of Indiana is so much lower than surrounding states. So you're not usually going to get a bond sold without a call provision. Pre-2018 legislation, you could do advanced refundings. no longer allowable by the federal government. Those may come back. So you had to wait until you're within that call window, which is typically 8 to 10 years after the original bond is issued before you can refinance it. So you didn't have that ability in that lower interest rate window.
Okay.
Anything else?
I'm good.
Thank you so much.
You all.
Thank you.
Okay, new business, sewer and landscape credits. We have David Kegabine requesting $26.16. Reason was for an outside spigot that was leaking for a long period of time. Do I have a motion to approve his sewer credit?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. And then Tom Parada at Joliet Street for $544.41. Another leaking pipe. Any questions on this one?
Is there any way we could postpone this one till the next meeting? And the reason is that I had conversation with Patty about this particular item, and I know she had some concerns about it.
Okay.
So if we could just kind of postpone this till the next meeting. Where is she? There, Kathy, are we gonna be okay to delay this? Do you think? I mean, I don't know how it's gonna impact the billing on it, but
I mean, he's got penalties and stuff already, but I know he's working, there's other issues there.
right. I just, the only reason I said that is Patty's not here tonight. I know she had some concerns about it, so I just wanted to kind of see if we could postpone it until next meeting. Yeah. That would be my recommendation, is table that.
We need a
until the next-
motion to table. Okay, do I hear a motion to table this one? Tom Parada?
And I'll make the motion to table.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is tabled.
Thank you.
And then item B, motion to approve a financial advisor professional service agreement for the sanitary district for 2023.
Make a
And
motion to table that.
Yeah.
Yeah, since Patty and John aren't here, there's a motion to table. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion is tabled. Reports and correspondence.
Need one more.
Yep. C.
Oh, I guess I'm not reading very well tonight. Motion to waive the wastewater penalties assessed in January on all Lake Central High School Corporation accounts. Any questions on this one? I think Patty had reached out to them. Any questions?
No, this came through the water board too, so
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to waive the penalties.
I don't, is there a, oh, here, in the amount of $731.47. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, reports and correspondence.
I
Anything?
have nothing this evening, Madam Chair.
Okay. Anything, Wayne?
Other than if the two that are gone on your board members, if they get the information, do they have this from Baker Tilly?
Eric, if I
Do you
could,
have a copy of
if I
that?
could get 2 copies for them, that would be great. And I'll,
Since they're absent, they can look at it.
absolutely.
Okay. Nothing else, Wayne?
No, that's,
He wants to go home.
That was short. Must not have had dinner. All right, payment of the bills. Accounts payable for dated February 21st, 2023, representing payment for payroll, purchases, supplies, equipment, services rendered to the sanitary district in the combined total amount of $18,840.80. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. And accounts payable voucher dated February 21st, 2023, representing payment for payroll, purchases, supplies, equipment, services rendered to the wastewater utility for the town of St. John in the combined total amount of $1,383,321.08. Is there a motion to approve?
Should I ask questions first?
Sure.
Again, just for educating me. So item 431 on the first page, there's a recapture fee. What's that about?
Those are the amounts that are collected on the building permits for the Lawton Sanitary. Wayne, you want to go ahead?
I know a little bit about it. Every time a house is built, there's a recapture fee. When John Lawton came into town, he had like $14 million. He had to buy the right-of-way, railroad right-of-way along Alexander going into the treatment plant for Cherville.
Okay.
So he put all that infrastructure in. He put up the water tower and the gates. So the way he got paid, the town didn't have to go out and get money. We used his money. The way that he got his repayment is through recapture fees. And I could be wrong, but I think they go up $9 a month. So if it's $26 today, the next month is $26.09. It keeps on going. So that helps him recoup his money. There was some deadlines on that. I think one is gone for sure. Another one is, I think, gone. And that's how he gets his money back.
Okay.
So that's what they call a recapture fee. And you know where Parish is in 101st?
Yeah.
That's where they kind of tied in. And they said they could have went a little bit further, not tied into that, but that's what all the lawsuit was about.
Okay. Thank you. Then I had one more question. Second page, item 1031. There's a WWLBL lawsuit.
Yeah, the sanitary district was named as a party of the lawsuit, so that's part of the litigation cost, and that's still ongoing. That also is the same developer.
Ah,
Yeah.
lovely. That's all the questions I have.
Okay.
I do have a question. So we're approving these bills, and this sanitary board is responsible for approving those, but yet we don't have a budget. Or it's just basically a fund that we're just, the money's coming out of, but we really don't know where we stand with those funds. I don't have a problem necessarily approving this tonight, but I think it's something that we definitely need to look at and come up with a budget, especially when we're talking about some of these improvements and everything else that we want to do, that there's no accountability for what we're spending or how we're spending it. If Public Works needs to replace a pump or whatever, is there any budgets for maintenance on that? Because we're approving all that, but yet we don't, it's just a pot of money sitting there that's not allocated for anything. This is unobligated,
Unappropriated.
or unappropriated
Yeah.
funding.
Yeah.
So I know it's legally you can do that, but I think it's something we should look to do to change. Just because it's legal to do it doesn't mean that's the best way.
So, and I would have a tendency to agree with him, and that was one of my confusions when I first started, is that there was no budget appropriated for the utilities, both water and sanitary. And I've had conversations with members of the council about, this is something as a best practice we should probably take a look at doing. In fact, my predecessor, who went to a different town, just did exactly that. So that's something that I'm going to be looking to do. I'll be working with the financial advisor on the budget for the utilities. I know that it is not required by law, but I think it's a best practice that the town should get used to doing. That way we have an understanding of how much money we've got coming in and what we're budgeting to go out. So I think it makes sense to do that.
And I know it's dated information, but the gentleman mentioned we've got an analysis that was done in 2020.
Right.
Yeah, you'd have a budget actually for 2022 that would have been issued early in 2022. And it had actually a 5-year extrapolation of that budget. It's not every single line to line like your town budget, but it would have extrapolated out of your expenditures.
Yeah.
Never formally.
It was like more of a cash flow basis, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm actually looking, at a budget, so, there's maintenance for lift stations or
Right.
whatever it is, and because if you do a cost, if there's gonna be a rate study at some point in time to fund some of these projects, you're gonna need to know what your day-to-day operation costs are. There's trucks, there's fuel, there's employees, there's all of that, and it's, one is supposedly has a budget, and the other one supposedly doesn't. So I think it's just something that we need to really look at, and
Yeah,
that's
I
what
think
we're
we're-
responsible to do,
Yeah,
to make
I
sure
think
that.
we're going to be exploring getting that done sooner rather than later. That's definitely on my radar.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? All right, do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Any public comment? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.